Welcome back to Learning Japanese with AI. Let's start with a short overview of what awaits us this time. First, I will quickly list all the vocabulary and kanji, and then we'll elaborate on some grammatical rules or sentence structures we had the last 2 weeks. At the end, I will talk about some compound kanji or specific use of some vocabulary. That couldn't be elaborated on in my shorts. Before we start, like always, let me know that I'm neither a teacher nor a linguist. Please keep this in mind while watching this video. First, a list of this week's vocabulary, and here, a list of the kanji. If you want to hear the pronunciation for each one, check out my shorts from day 94 to 106. They cover every single word in more detail. First question of this video: what is the kanji for far? A. Soku hayai, B. En toi, or C. Ji osoi? The answer is B. En toi. For the grammar part, let's start with asking for a distance and or duration while traveling. First, duration. To ask how long something takes, you can say Dono kurai kakarimasu ka? Dono is an interrogative, also known as a question word, while kurai means approximately, which in this case signals that the speaker is unsure about something. You then add a verb to give context. In our case, it would be kakarimasu, which means to require. Kakarimasu is generally used to ask for how much time something requires or how much money something requires. Which meaning it refers to is dependent on the interrogative use. There are a few question words in Japanese which all would translate to how much in English. There are a few question words in Japanese which all would translate to how much if you translate them. For example, ikura, dono, kurai, ikutsu. But this is an entire separate topic which wasn't elaborated on so far. So yeah. When answering the questions in English, you would simply say, for example, oh, 2 hours. Now in Japanese, you generally use the same word unchanged to refer to singular and plural. For example, in English, you would say hospital or hospitals, adding the S, while in Japanese, you would use byoin for both. The thing is, the S suffix is also used when indicating a span or an interval of something, like in I waited for hours. And as duration is a time interval or time passage, we need to add something in Japanese to signify this interval, and that is the kanji kan. So when answering dono kurai kakarimasu ka, you would say nichi kan desu instead of nichi desu. Important to note here is that while kan can be also used for minutes, in everyday life you normally drop it. So while you would say nichi kan for 2 hours, it would just be nifun for 2 minutes because they dropped the kan. Next would be distance. Essentially, you have the exact same sentence structure when asking for the distance. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that toi, meaning far, which I used here, is an adjective. In order to turn it into a verb, you need to add desu. It's pretty similar in English because you ask how far is it away. So you also add is. When answering, you simply use kilo for kilometers or metro for meters. You don't add kan here. Kan pretty much is exclusively used for time-related intervals. So yeah. A bit confusing. The second question would be, kan is used to signal a distance interval, or B, a time interval. The answer is B, a time interval. Next would be talking about your origin and your language. This is far easier than the first rule of today, as you only need to add jin or go to your country. Jin meaning human for nationality, and go meaning language for, well, your native language. So Nihongo, for example, would be the Japanese language, and Nihonjin would be Japanese person. About the countries itself, you can group them into 3 categories. First, you have the countries which have long-standing history with Japan and therefore are written with kanji, like Chugoku for China or Kankoku for Korea. Second are the countries with a more recent history with Japan. This includes a lot of the European countries. They are written with Katakana, as they often use either the respective country's own pronunciation or the English pronunciation. For example, Germany is Deutsche, as Germans themselves call their country Deutschland. France would be France. The last category are countries where you need to pay a bit attention as their spoken language is often different to their nationality. In India, for example, you speak Hindi, so we would say Indochin for nationality, but Indigo for your language. Same for the Philippines, as they have a few languages that are used. Now, a bit of an exception to these rules is England. You still add jin and go, that part doesn't change, but you would say ego for a language and igiri for the nationality. What's also different is the nationality uses katakana for England, but the language uses kanji. The short explanation is that England had such a big influence during the modernization of Japan that they essentially got a kanji to honor that influence. But it is, for whatever reason, only used for the language. By the way, Ekoke would refer to the entire United Kingdom and not just England. The next question would be, which kanji is used as a suffix to express your nationality? A. Chin or B. Go? The answer is A. Chin. Next, let's discuss how you can express that you are heading somewhere. This part is an add-on to the video of week 10 and 11, where we already discussed the most important particles for when you want to express that you are going into a certain or general direction. I linked it in the info box in the upper right corner. I just want to quickly deconstruct the general sentence structure, as the example in the shorts combined a few grammar rules we had independently. So time is always mentioned first in the sentence. In our example, we have two parts that reference the time though. First, konban, meaning this evening, and rokuji, meaning 6 o'clock. Konban is an adverbial noun in English, meaning it can act as a subject or as an adverb, and therefore can be at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. In Japanese though, you normally always say the time at the very beginning. So you mention konban first, as it gives a broader time frame, which you then specify with the follow-up of rokuji. The rest follows the rules of the previous video. You first mention the place, and then the verb. Next would be ya versus mise. Those who have watched my shorts for a longer time now may have realized that there seems to be two words which both translate into store. So let's compare them and discuss the usage. Ya is a suffix. You add ya when you talk about a shop with a specific orientation. For example, bookstore would be honya, a compound of the kanji for book and the store suffix. Other examples would be hanaya for florist or panya to refer to a bakery. Important is that you cannot use ya standalone. It always needs another kanji. Mise, on the other hand, refers to a building or store in a more general sense. Therefore, it can be used as a standalone word. It's also used when you talk, for example, about a general destination. So, mise ni ikimasu would mean I'm going to the shop, or you can also use it when you ask for a comparison. Sono mise ga ii desu ka? Which shop is better? Next question. To say bookstore in Japanese, you need the suffix A. Ya or B. Mise. The answer is A. Ya. And last for this video, some minor clarification. First, the kanji monobutsu, meaning thing. It can either be used as a standalone or as a suffix to a verb turning it into a noun. For example, tabemasu, to eat, would become tabemono, food. To turn a verb into a noun, you generally use the kan reading of the verb kanji. Note that when you use that method to create a noun, the noun will always refer to an item and not an event. So for example, the process of having a meal, including sitting down, eating, and so on, would be shokuji, another independent word. While food itself, like ramen, gyudon, or whatever you're eating, would be expressed with tabemono. Next, oyasumi nasai. For those of you who watch anime, you may be more familiar with oyasumi instead of oyasumi nasai. Both mean the same thing, good night, but are used in different contexts. Oyasumi nasai is formal and polite, while oyasumi is simply the more casual and more common version. Same for the next. You have two versions of please when asking for something in Japanese. One is okudasai, and the other is onegaishimasu. The latter is the formal and polite option, but even more important can be used when asking for an item or a service, while okudasai is only used with items. So when you're in a restaurant asking for a glass of water, you can use both okudasai or onegaishimasu, though okudasai is the more common option in that case. But when you, for example, telling a taxi driver that you would like to be dropped off at a certain address, you would use onegaishimasu, as the taxi driver is offering you a service. But when in doubt, always use the formal and polite option, which in this case would be onegaishimasu. Last question for this video is, tabemono means A. shopping, B. drink, or C. food? The answer is C. food. With that, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you liked it and the quiz worked out. Depending on the browser or device you're using, the quiz won't pop up during the video. That's also the reason why I always reveal the answers after a few seconds. And if you want to see more, check out my shorts or other videos. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.